Deep inside the frozen wilderness of Alaska stood an old wooden cabin, half buried in snow and silence. It looked like any other lonely shelter built to survive harsh winters, but this one held a strange pull, as if it was guarding something no one was supposed to see. Locals called it the Brown Cabin, after a quiet man named Noah Brown, who lived there all by himself for nearly 20 years. He was rarely seen in town, only coming down to buy a few supplies or tools. Many thought he was a hermit, a man who had given up on society to live in peace, but some said he was hiding from something, or someone. When Noah passed away, the cabin was left behind, cold and empty, until a group of locals and a historian decided to explore it. What they found inside would change how people saw him forever. Behind the wooden walls and the smell of pine, they discovered secrets that made them question who Noah Brown really was. A lonely survivor, a brilliant mind, or something far more mysterious. The cabin was not just a home. It was a time capsule of hidden genius, buried guilt, and unspoken truth waiting to be told. As the door creaked open, cold air rushed out like a breath from the past. The inside of the cabin was dimly lit, filled with dust, old furniture, and the smell of wood smoke. Everything was perfectly in place, as if Noah had just stepped out for a walk and might return any moment. On the walls hung old tools, faded blueprints, and strange drawings that no one could immediately understand. A typewriter sat on a desk, surrounded by notes and sketches of mechanical parts. There were also maps, but not of Alaska. Some were of remote islands and mountain ranges far away. It was clear that Noah had been more than a hermit. He had been thinking, planning, and building something. His cabin was not a retreat from the world. It was a workshop, a secret laboratory in disguise. The visitors found shelves full of handwritten journals, each filled with carefully drawn diagrams and strange codes. His handwriting was neat, almost obsessive, showing the mind of a man who spent years focused on a mission only he understood. As the group read through the first few pages, they realized this was not a simple man living in peace. This was a man chasing an idea, maybe even haunted by it. In one corner of the cabin, hidden behind stacked firewood, stood a small wooden door. Unlike the rest of the cabin, this door was made of solid oak and secured with a heavy lock. It looked completely out of place, like something guarding a secret that wasn't meant to be found. Curiosity took over, and after some effort, the visitors broke it open. What they saw left them speechless. Inside was a narrow staircase leading underground. The air was colder, heavier, and filled with a faint metallic smell. When they reached the bottom, they found a small room lined with shelves, jars, and hand-built machines that looked like early inventions or survival equipment. There were blueprints of strange tools, possibly designed for communication or energy storage. One drawing showed a structure shaped like a dome with handwritten notes that said, "Safe from them." But who were they? No one knew. On a wooden table sat a single candle beside a journal labeled, "Final Entry." This was the point where Noah's life turned from lonely to mysterious. The people began to understand that Noah's isolation wasn't accidental. It was a choice made out of fear, or maybe protection. After searching deeper, the group discovered a storage trunk covered with a thick tarp. Inside were dozens of rolled-up blueprints, sealed envelopes, and metal parts carefully wrapped in oilcloth. Some blueprints looked like designs for homemade generators, while others appeared to be advanced survival shelters. But the most confusing part was that many designs were far ahead of their time. Some ideas resembled modern renewable energy systems, years before they were ever built by scientists. Noah had clearly been thinking like an inventor or engineer, but he had no record of working for any company or research group. Tucked between the papers was a letter written in shaky handwriting. "The power must remain hidden. The world is not ready." The visitors were stunned. What kind of power was Noah referring to? Some believed he had discovered a new form of energy. Others thought it was a metaphor for knowledge, a secret that could change everything if revealed. Alongside the blueprints were jars of dried food, medical kits, and sealed containers labeled Winter Protocol. It looked like Noah had prepared for a disaster, one that never came, or one he believed was still coming. Among Noah's journals, one stood out more than the others. Its pages were darker, more personal, filled with thoughts that showed a man torn between genius and fear. He wrote about strange lights in the sky, unmarked aircrafts, and late-night visitors that left footprints in the snow. One entry read, "They watch from the ridge. I hear them at night." At first, it seemed like the writings of a man losing touch with reality, but other pages described scientific theories and technical sketches that were undeniably brilliant. He had notes on electromagnetic waves, natural energy sources, and radiation shielding. This mix of paranoia and innovation painted a picture of someone who had seen or discovered something incredible, and spent the rest of his life trying to protect it. Maybe Noah wasn't crazy at all. Maybe he had known something the rest of the world ignored. His words carried both intelligence and pain, and the more they read, the more the visitors realized they were uncovering not just his secrets, but his deepest fears. As the group continued to explore, one of them noticed that the floorboards under the bed were slightly uneven. After moving the bed aside and prying the boards open, they uncovered a hidden compartment, a trapdoor leading to an even deeper space. Crawling down, they entered a small underground room with stone walls and a faint hum in the air. In the center stood a large metal box connected to handmade wiring and old batteries. It seemed like some kind of generator, but no one could tell how it worked. The wires ran up through the walls, connecting to devices above. Noah had built an entire energy system beneath his home, possibly self-sustaining and off-grid. Around the room were boxes filled with books, tools, and old photos of landscapes that didn't belong to Alaska. There was also a small framed picture of a woman and child, possibly his family. It made everyone wonder, had Noah lost them? Was this isolation a way to escape his grief, or to protect what was left of them? The silence in that underground room felt heavy, as if Noah's soul still lingered there, guarding his invention and his memories. When the group returned to town and shared what they had found, no one knew what to believe. Some thought Noah Brown had been a hidden genius, working on renewable energy long before others imagined it. Others believed he was a man driven mad by loneliness and imagination. But one thing was clear: Noah had lived a life of purpose. Every drawing, every journal, every tool had a reason. It was as if he had been preparing for something larger than himself. Maybe a warning, maybe a legacy. A historian who studied his work later suggested that Noah had been experimenting with harnessing natural magnetic energy, trying to find a clean source of power from the Earth itself. But when he realized the potential danger of his discovery, he chose to hide it away. The letter that said the world is not ready now made sense. Noah wasn't just hiding from people, he was hiding his creation from misuse. In his silence, he had carried both knowledge and responsibility. And in death, he left behind the mystery of what he might have achieved. In the end, Noah Brown's story became more than a mystery. It became a reflection of what happens when a person carries the weight of discovery alone. His cabin, once forgotten, turned into a symbol of hidden genius and the thin line between fear and brilliance. People who visited it spoke of feeling a strange energy there, a reminder of a man who dared to dream beyond his time, but chose silence over recognition. His life teaches us that sometimes great discoveries come with great danger, and that not every truth is meant to be shared. Noah's journals, preserved by historians, are now studied by engineers and researchers who admire his early understanding of natural power. Yet the question remains, did he really find something revolutionary? Or was it all in his mind? We may never know. What we do know is that his cabin still stands, surrounded by whispering pines and cold wind, holding the last echoes of a man who lived and died with a secret too powerful or too painful to tell. The legacy of Noah Brown reminds us that even in solitude, one person can leave behind a story that touches the world in unexpected ways. Weeks after the discovery, a team of engineers and researchers was sent to study Noah's cabin. They carefully examined every wire, every bolt, and every notebook, trying to understand what Noah had created. It didn't take long before one of the scientists made a stunning observation. The generator buried underground was not like any known machine. It used natural minerals from the soil, copper wiring, and magnetic coils arranged in a unique spiral pattern. Somehow, it was able to produce a low but steady electrical current, enough to power lights, tools, and heating without fuel or solar panels. In simple words, Noah Brown had built a small working energy source that ran almost entirely on nature itself. What amazed them even more was that this technology was decades ahead of its time. The blueprints revealed concepts similar to those used in modern clean energy systems. Except Noah had done it alone, in a remote cabin, without funding or laboratories. His ideas could have changed the world. But instead of fame or profit, Noah chose isolation and secrecy. Maybe he feared what would happen if his invention fell into the wrong hands. Maybe he'd seen too much of human greed to trust anyone. Whatever the reason, he kept his secret safe, hidden beneath the snow and silence of Alaska. The researchers realized they were not just studying an old machine. They were uncovering the mind of a man who had lived 50 years ahead of his generation. Among the many mysterious things found in the cabin, one picture drew the most attention. The small framed photo of a woman and a child. Their faces were gentle, smiling, filled with warmth that seemed to belong to another life. On the back of the photo, faint handwriting read, "For Noah, come back to us." This discovery opened a new chapter in the investigation. Who were they? What happened to them? A local archivist began searching Old Town records and finally uncovered something that connected the pieces. Decades earlier, a man named Noah Brown had been married to a woman named Clara. They had a daughter, Lily. The family lived in Anchorage until a tragic fire destroyed their home, taking Clara and Lily's lives. After the accident, Noah disappeared from public records completely. That was nearly 25 years before the cabin was found. Now the mystery made sense in a different way. The isolation, the silence, the endless writing in journals. All of it was the grief of a man who had lost everything. Maybe the inventions were not just about science or energy. Maybe they were Noah's way of coping, of keeping himself alive through purpose. Every page, every design could have been his attempt to make sense of the world again. The drawing of the dome-shaped structure labeled "safe from them" might have referred not to a government or strangers, but to fate itself, to death, fire, or loss. Perhaps Noah was trying to create something indestructible, something that could protect people when he couldn't protect his own family. Suddenly, the story changed from one of fear to one of heartbreaking devotion. When news about Noah Brown's discoveries reached the public, people from across the country began visiting the cabin. Journalists called it the Hermit's Lab and the Genius in the Woods. Conspiracy theorists claimed he had worked on government experiments, while others believed he had tapped into free, unlimited energy that powerful groups wanted to hide. Scientists, however, saw him as a forgotten innovator, someone who quietly achieved what the world was too distracted to notice. The cabin was eventually turned into a protected research site. Everything inside was left exactly as it was. The journals, the tools, even the old coffee mug sitting by the window. Visitors often said the place had a strange feeling. Not frightening, but deeply emotional. Some claimed they could still sense Noah's presence, like his mind was still alive in the walls. A few engineers even reported that the underground generator would start humming faintly at random times, even though it wasn't connected to any known power source. It was as if Noah's invention had a life of its own, continuing his legacy quietly, just as he had lived. Months later, while cataloging Noah's journals, one historian found a small envelope stuck between two pages. It was sealed and labeled, "For the one who understands." Inside was a handwritten letter, Noah's final message. It read, "If you are reading this, you have seen what I made. I didn't build it for power or pride. I built it because I believe the earth gives us everything we need: warmth, light, and hope. If only we learn to listen. But I also learned that knowledge can destroy as much as it creates. I lost the people I loved most because I thought I could control everything. I was wrong. If my work helps others, let it be for peace, not for greed. The world will be ready when it learns to respect what it already has." The letter ended with a simple line: "I forgive myself. I forgive them." Those last words changed everything. The mystery wasn't about hidden technology anymore. It was about redemption. Noah Brown wasn't hiding from the world. He was healing from it. His invention wasn't a weapon or secret treasure. It was an apology, a promise that he still believed in goodness. For years, people had painted him as a ghost or a genius gone mad. But his final letter showed he was something else entirely. A man who found peace in the silence he once feared. After reading Noah's final message, experts began to see his designs differently. They realized that his generator was built not to dominate nature, but to work with it. It drew energy from the magnetic flow of the earth, creating power without pollution, noise, or waste. Noah had discovered what modern scientists now call resonant energy harmonics, a way to produce clean electricity